So this is my presentation for today. So about how to design for different generations. This was my part of my PhD dissertation that I did during 2016 and 2020 in the Pontifical University here at Rio Grande do Sul, south of Brazil, where I live. So let's get started to talk a little bit about myself. I am a Brazilian. I am a product designer. I am also a researcher. That's something that I really love to do. I am also a teacher. I teach in some universities here in Brazil, usually about usability, accessibility, and also prototyping. I am a Gen X woman. So I'm a 40 plus, and also I am a 70 plus daughter. So I have my parents, they are 70 plus, baby boomers, and I have a daughter that's from generation, the alpha generation, right? So I had those different experience of transitioning with some family things and have a lot of friends from different generations. So this is a thing that I really like to observe and also to help in the design product stuff. So the agenda for today, I will talk firstly about the existing current generations that we have worldwide. I will talk a little bit about my academic research, some main findings. Then I'll go to some specificities about the 60 plus users, and then I will go to some of the talk about specifically about design considerations, what is important when we design for different generations. So I'll talk about 4 main topics that I think it's important for it. Okay, so let's talk about the existing current generations. Today, currently we have 5 generational groups that are the baby boomers, the Gen X, the millennials or Gen Y, then the Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. Then I will talk more about each generation group now. So first group is the baby boomers. They were born between 1946 and 1964. It's a generation marked by the post-war. They used typewriters and letters. So this is a peculiarity of this generation. They bypassed through very different types of media assets, media devices. They have greater learning curve to become familiar with digital. That's why they were very familiar with the analog devices, right? Artifacts. And well, the Gen X. Gen X was born between by the years in 1965 and 1979. It's a generation that tends towards some materialism. It's followed by computational development and had experience with analog and digital in adult life. So this I can tell you, I had my experience when I start working. We had very analog stuff in the office. Like my first work, we started to work with some computers, but it was very in the beginning of the personal computing. So this generation has this peculiarity of experiencing a lot of those transitions. Then we have the millennials and or Gen Y. They were born by the years of 1980 and 1994. It's known as a globalized generation. They follow the development of the internet and 24/7 connectivity, right? So it's a generation that was born in this context of the internet that we already know, and they're very familiar with this. Then we have the Gen Z. I believe we have a lot of you here from Gen Z that were born from in between 1995 and 2010. They have symbiotic relationship with technology. It's very easy to transition through the technology. They are considered digital natives because they were born in this context of the everything is digital. We had then the smartphones. They were very familiar with this environment. Then we have finally the Gen Alpha. That's the generation that is born in those current years, and they are born in a completely digital context. They find it easy to move between real and digital. So I see, like, I have a daughter in this generation. They're very familiar with what's digital, and it's easy to do this kind of transition to the real world. They have also sometimes greater difficulty to concentrate, like to this constant stimuli. So they as they grew in this environment with a lot of technology, a lot of things happening, so sometimes very difficult to concentrate in some tasks. Well, we talked about an overview about the generations, and here I bring this graphic. I like it very much. This graphic, unfortunately, I cannot open. I'm not allowing to be open my camera, but I have a great book here. I can send to the name of the book and the authors. And I adapted this graph. This is from Jeff Johnson and Kate Finn. And this book is called Designing Users Interface for an Aging Population Towards Universal Design. And in the book, they have this graph here that I think it's very great to get this understanding of which technology exists when each generation group was born. So it's very interesting to observe that the baby boomers were born in the analog computing, and those that are like in their 70s, their 80s, they can live, they can engage with technologies that are more like are more, we have are more recent, like the social network, and also maybe they are engaging also with AI. So this graph shows the time, like here the tech generation that we have through those years, and then here below you can see when the generations were born in terms of the technology change, right? So let's talk about my academic research. So during my PhD, I did a comparison between the two generations. First, I did a data collection of what the baby boomers had in their smartphones, like what were the apps that they used and what they used the most. And I did the same with the millennial group. They were from the same region here in South Brazil and the same cultural group. So I had a chance to compare those use cases, and what I learned here, what was really interesting to observe. So they had kind of the same number of the apps. So in this graph, I didn't put the name of those apps, but each column here represents a specific app that they had in their smartphone. But what was very interesting to observe was the amount, the intensity of use of each app. So here, for example, the baby boomers, they use very very intensively a smaller group of apps in the time. At the same time, the millennials don't have this intensity in a small group of apps, but they tend of use more apps less intensively. So here as the baby boomers, the first one was the WhatsApp, then they had the Facebook, and then they have the Chrome navigator. Here the millennials also use the WhatsApp, and next came the Instagram, and then Facebook social network, but it was not so intense in terms of use if we compare with the baby boomers. And here you can see some reasons why the baby boomers don't use so much apps. First reason was they have some fear of the unknown when we talk about features. So they said things like, I'm not sure what will happen if I click here. So features they don't know, they don't have an understanding about it, how it works, what this could do for them, so they don't click there. And also this happens because they don't recognize the app value. So they don't understand, maybe they don't use that app because they don't understand what that app could do for them. So the question here is, what the app could do for me? Why will we use this app? So the app is in the smartphone, but they don't use because they don't know why they could use that, right? So this was my about my PhD dissertation. Sure, I have a lot more data, a lot more information about that, but this was a picture that shows up because this was like very different use case in terms of generation. And what came from this, what's concerning about this is that the population of the 60 plus users and 70 plus users, 80 plus users is getting huge. So it's growing in terms of elderly population. So right now, this is a graph, this is a study from the World Social Report from 2023. And this shows that the population, the current population from 65 plus users is currently 761 million, right? It was a number from 2021, but this will grow to 1.6 billion in 2020, right? So the 80 plus population is growing very fast from 155 million in 2021 to 459 million in 2050. So this is something that we have to look about when we design, when we are trying to include those elderly population in our apps, our products, digital products. So this is something that we have to consider even more each time, even more when as designers, in our role as designers, right? So some considerations about the 60 plus users, to talk about a little bit about their context. So when you look to those users, it's necessary to look beyond the biological change caused by aging, right? So they are living more. This is a reality worldwide. They are very active in different areas, so they go to gym, they had their friends, they do a lot of activities, they are connected with friends and family, so they are very social usually. They are also interested in technologies, and they look for life quality. This is something that's happening even more. Some peculiarity about this generation that they had experience with different communication artifacts that can be prior to the digital ones, and they are therefore digital immigrants. So here, this is a picture generated by AI. They showed a little bit how they lived, what artifacts they had previously. So the radio, the gramophone, the typewriter machine, and newspaper everywhere. This is this is an image that can sense terms of sensibility to see the transition, why they are called digital immigrants, right? Well, let's go to some design considerations for design for those different generations that we have. Let's talk first about the importance of the persona. I believe you all know what a persona is, but it's something that's very important to reinforce why we have to do this. I like to say that we, as designers, tend to design to ourselves. So when we create a design, when we go to like a tool like Figma, or we start a project, we tend to design like how I use this. But before starting to design, it's very important to understand to whom we are designing, to whom we are projecting. So that's why it's very important to look to that persona. And here we can talk about gender, we can talk about generation, we can talk about work activity, we can talk about lifestyle. So it's a lot of things that could be included. But the thing here, we are talking about generation. So that's very important to understand the generation context of those users, if they are familiar with technology and what kind of technology, if they are familiar with digital technologies, with smartphones, what kinds of smartphone apps in their smartphone do they use. So this is something that we have to consider every time that we create a design, right? So the persona represents the end user of our product. So when we create, even if it is a product persona that's not built by some very in-depth research, we can have an idea of who will be our final user, for who we are designing to. So it's a tool used to generate empathy. It's very important in design that we have empathy with our users when developing and designing digital product, right? The second design consideration is beyond usability and accessibility is to talk about universal design. So here, I don't know if you are familiar with this term. So universal design is something that we are always looking for when we tend to design for a broader user group. So it's when we talk about universal design, we are talking about product or environment designed for everyone in the most expandable way possible without requiring any time of adaptation or specialization in terms of design. So I'll go to the next slide, and this will be more clear what I am talking about. So when we talk about universal design. It's about age, it's about accessibility, it's about economic situation, geographic location, it's about language, it's about race, and it's about body physics. So we tend to look to all this this these ranges, these facets to design to our large group of users, so attending everyone, right? And the best practices of the universal design is this means that we have to look for equitable use, simple, it should be simple and intuitive. The size and space for usage approaches should also be considered. It should also consider error tolerance, so the users will error during the will do some error during the usage, but we have to design for this, avoiding them that they lose themselves during the experience. The design should provide low physical effort, also the perception information. It should be it's something that the information should be perceptible for the users and should also provide flexibility of use, right? And then when we talk about the universal design, it dialogues with the natural user interface. That's another term that's very related to the universal design, but it's something that I really like this term. I like this concept here of the natural user interface, because this one tries to resolve around, then we create interactions between humans and computers that goes towards a natural and intuitive way. So unlike traditional interface that require learning specific comments or inputs, this natural user interface are designed to leverage human abilities such as touch, speed, gesture, and vision. So this is something that already happens, and it's not impossible to create interfaces that goes to this and are it's very achievable. So here are some, I will go to 4 characteristics of the natural user interface. The first one is the intuitiveness. So natural user interface are designed to be easy to learn and use. It requires minimal to training. So it should be intuitive for the user, no matter who the user is, if it is a kid, if it is if you are designing for an age group, this should be intuitive, right? This should also be multimodality. So the natural user interface often support multiple forms of input simultaneously, such as voice commands, touch gestures, and visual recognition. The third characteristic is the context awareness. So they can adapt to the context in which they are used, including the user environment, action, and intent. Also, the fourth characteristic is the immersiveness. The natural user interface then aims to create an immersive experience that blurs the line between the user and the technology. And we will take a look at some examples right now how it works. So this natural user interface is something that we have today, like we have the touch interfaces that we use in our smartphone, our tablets. We have gesture recognition when we do some gestures, even though in our smartphones or tablets it's possible to do that, but also in our wearables it's possible to have this kind of interface, doing gestures, for example, in smartwatches, we can do some gestures to active to get to go some feature active. We also can have this in the voice recognition. So, for example, when we use Siri, Alexa, our voice assistants, we have this voice recognition. And also it's possible to use the eye tracking. So the eye tracking will follow the vision of the user and can provide some information or recommend some feature or some new activity for the user. So the idea of this is that it's a natural use based on user natural behavior. So it's not common that the user will do in the interface in terms of like pressing lots of buttons, but the interface goes towards the user providing some facility to this user to use the product, right? So and then the fourth and least consideration, that dialogues with everything, the persona, the universal design, and the natural user interface is the accessibility. This is something that we have to always consider when we design to all the generation group. This is something that we have to consider every time even more, because our users are from very different backgrounds and also could have some accessibility kind of bias, something that can impeditize them to use. So this is something important to always also consider. So here I'll talk about the W3C Web Accessibility Initiative. So this is the website. I will provide the link. Maybe you already are familiar with this, but I will go to the guidelines that they already contain. So according to this web content accessibility, they have 4 basic principles. The first one is to be noticeable. The second is to be operable. The third is to be understandable. And the fourth is to be robust. So let's talk about the first one, be noticeable. So user interface information and components must be perceivable to all the users. So the users perceive through the sense, sight, hearing, touch, no matter the kind of interface that we are providing. If it's a visual interface, it's a voice interface, it should be noticeable. The user should be able to have this interaction, to noticing the interaction that the interface is doing with them. The second one is to be operable. So the UI components and navigation must be operable for all the users. The interface cannot require interaction that the user cannot perform. So always when we design something, we as designers know, if we design a button, this button should mean something. This button should provide some kind of feedback. So everything in the interface that looks like to be an action, to be operable, should be operable to the users. They have to do something with this feature, right? The next one, the third one, is to be understandable. So the user interface information and operation must be understandable. So the users need to understand what the interface is communicating. So an interface, when we design an interface, we are creating a dialogue with the users. So this dialogue need to be very clear, very clean, and the users has to understand what the purpose of this UI is, what this UI will provide, what benefits this UI is providing to them, right? And the last one here is that the interface should be robust. So the content must be robust enough to it can be reliable, interpreted by a wide range of user agents, including assistive technology. So this is more to when we create a product, and we are talking here about screen readers. So when we design a screen, for example, this design has architecture information. And in this architecture information, we have to really care about the order of the elements. Like we have the header, the title, the buttons, and the features there. How a screen reader will read the screen for a user that needs to use this assistive technology. So we have to take care about this and provide a so this is why this is called to be robust. So robustness here means we need to care about the way we are providing all the information behind the screen, right? The code, everything, so that some user that needs to use assistive technology can be able to correctly get all the information, all the features, and all the possibilities that this app or this website, or this digital product is providing. Okay. All right, and this is it. So this was my presentation. I think it was on time.
Yes, yes. Thank you so
Meets
much for sharing the
expectations.
valuable knowledge.
Yes. Let me go back here.
So we have first question from Amir Hamza. What are
Mhm.
the main UX guidelines for accessibility?
The main US guideline for accessibility. So, yeah, this is a good question. So, first of all, is understand who is the user. So, understanding who is your user in the group of users, so you can have like an idea of what kind of accessibility issue you have to take care more. For example, if you are going to design to a group of 80 plus users, for example, we all know that those groups have some visual bias, and they tend to need some help to need interface. So then we have to take care of the things like contracts, the size of the text. So those kinds of things, I think that we have to take care. So this could be a good guideline to start. Also, if maybe they have some visual bias, maybe we can provide some voice interface, some option to a voice interface, something like that, right? But the first thing is to get this understanding about who our user is, who are the group of users that we are designing for. Hope this answers.
Hope Amir Hamza will get the answer. We have next question. Um, is the current AI app easy to accessible for the Gen X or baby boomers? Even you
Oh,
can see the question in the chat box.
yes, is that about AI, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, this is something that I heard about in a, I think it was in a conference that a presentation from Jacob Nielsen. He was talking about the AI tools and how they are sometimes not easy to use from the baby boomers because, but I think this is more about the understanding about how we can use AI and what AI is for. I think so. They are currently in their current versions. I think they are still not so worried about like the accessible things, accessible possibilities. But this is something that will come in the AI tools. But I think for now it's more about the understanding of what we can do, how we can create a prompt for creating something in AI. I think it's more in this sense.
So hope we will get the answer. Thank you, Melissa. We will take
Mhm.
one more question according to our time. So next one is, what tools do you recommend for testing accessibility in our design or and code?
Yeah, what tools to testing accessibility? This is really a good question. So we have some tools to test for color when we have some specificities about colors. So we have I Z, something like that. I can provide a list. I have a list of tools there, but there are tools that we can, like uh, we can provide the colors that we are putting in our design, and we can test if this color works for each kind of visual bias that can happen, and the tool like can um provide suggestions of color improvements, provide color codes that are more accessible. Oh, and when we tend to need to really test with users, so the best practice is to go to to test presentially with the user. So if the users are totally blind or need to have specific digital access, some assistive technology, the best thing is to go to this user and to test with them, sit behind them and test with them, and understand what kind of what improvements we can do in terms of accessibility. If for example, this user is using a screen reader, where the screen reader is impacting, where should we improve our design or even our code to provide the best experience for this user.
So firstly, he said thanks for your insightful presentation. Then he asking about, may I ask what aspect your PhD research has most made you aware to diverse generations? If you also
uh,
tell the of your PhD research, I will be grateful.
sure, thanks for the question. Yeah, the thing was, I finished my PhD in 2020, early in 2020, before the pandemic situation, so before the isolation. um, the baby boomers, they were very afraid of using specific apps, like apps related to their bank account, like even buying something in the internet. And this was something that really caused my attention during my PhD studies. This is something that I was very concerned when I was studying this and how to provide like a secure environment, a more comfortable environment to them. And then in 2020, when they were isolated at home and they need to access their bank accounts or even do some shop in to shop food or asks for some service to help them at home, they needed to use those apps that they were not familiar and they didn't have anyone to help them to use that. So everything was remotely for them. So then I also observed and I continue then my study and I noticed a big change there. They use even more apps, so they are more secure. They have more apps, but they don't use like everything that a app could provide to them. This continue. This is a behavior that I see. This is something that really continues. Um, and of course, there are apps that are like there is a kind of division, like not a rigid division, but I see that are apps that some generations tend to use the most. For example, TikTok's an app that Gen Z, even Gen Alpha is using even more. My generation, I don't find my friends there. I think it's something that also is related to our social network that we have in the apps. For example, here in Brazil, I don't know if how it is in Pakistan, but here the baby boomers they use a lot of Facebook. They really like Facebook. They also have the Instagram installed in their smartphone, but they don't use it. They don't publish. They only follow things in Instagram. So this is the kind of behavior. And as I see my generation, Gen the Gen Y also don't use so much the Facebook. We are more in Instagram, and then we have the Gen Z that's in TikTok. So it's very interesting to observe those different nuances in terms of apps of use cases. Mhm.
Yes, I think Kazim will get the detailed answers from Melissa. So, if you have any more questions, you can ask Melissa through the LinkedIn maybe or Instagram. I
Sure.
also shared your social media links in the networking sheets. So I just take one last question from the Fatma Rafi. So she is asking how constraints can help us to create responsive design. And
Uh-huh.
when collaborating on large scale projects, what strategies or plugins do you find most effective for maintaining consistency across design and ensuring effective file organization?
Uh-huh. Right. It's also a good question. So I'm not a very technique person in terms of the design in Figma, so I don't have any suggestion here right now for the plugins. But I see this is a big challenge, and this is a challenge that all the designers face, how to provide an experience that could be equitable and holistic for everyone. So this is why the universal design is still a big challenge for everyone, and not only in the digital world but also in the physical world. So this is where I understand where we have to aim. I think it's also a challenge for tools like Figma provide like features and plugins that allows us as designers to create things for everyone, for create things for this range of holistic groups. So yeah, but if we tend to, when we talk here, see the word here, responsive design, yes, this is something that it's important. We have to look for that, create interfaces uh, that can adapt. And I see if we design with the possibility of providing more contracts depending on the use case, more like the possibility of increase the size of the text depending on also on the context of the user. So this is something that really happen, and we have a lot of other examples here, but those are kind of the basic ones that we already know. But this is something that unfortunately doesn't happen in all the application, all the products that we see, right?
Yes, so I would say thank you so much to Melissa for your contribution. It's really honored for us to having you today.
Yeah.
And thank you so much everyone for joining us today. Once again, I apologize facing some technical issues for starting the event. So we could not do networking, virtual networking right now because we don't have too much time. So I shared the networking sheet. You can connect with each other on the LinkedIn and have a nice day or evening to everyone. So
Yeah.
that's all from our side. Thank you so much, everyone. See you soon with some upcoming events.
Mhm.
And last but not in the least, I just want to Melissa, do you have any ending note or want to share something? Last your message for all of us.
Yeah. So I would like to thank you so much, Mohammed Ali Takir. It was a pleasure to me to be here with you. Unfortunately, I was not able to open my camera. I don't know what's happening here, but so sorry for that. And I really appreciate this time for you to share a little bit of my knowledge, my experience also. And I open to any further question that you have. Sometimes I take no time to respond all the messages I receive, but I do the possible to respond to everyone. So you have my social network there, my Instagram and LinkedIn, so we can stay connected there.
Yes, sure.
And
So
thank you
thank
so
you so
much.
much once again. It's my pleasure. So see you guys soon. Evening.
Thank you. Have a
Bye
great weekend.
bye.
Bye bye.